On today's episode, the 7 pieces of gear you must have for World's Toughest Mudder.
This is the World's Toughest Podcast. Welcome to the World's Toughest Podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's World's Toughest Mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the World's Toughest Podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the number 1 rated obstacle course race podcast in the world. It's listeners like you. Thank you for rating and reviewing this show. You are too kind. Today on the show, we are going to talk about the 7 pieces of equipment you need for World's Toughest Mudder. I'm going to tell you general categories, and then I'm going to tell you the specific model, exactly like what I wore when I ran 50 miles at World's Toughest a couple years ago. When I signed up for World's Toughest Mudder my very first time back in 2015, I had so much anxiety over what kind of shoes. I'd been running OCR for 4 years at a time. I knew I had trail running shoes. I had OCR shoes. I had, you know, when you do your first run and you're like, wear your worst pair of shoes and you like duct tape them and the whole deal. And then like after you do it for a few times, you've been going for 2 or 3 years, like, oh man, maybe I should invest some money in some good shoes. The shoes I see people wearing out there. I had good shoes. But World's Toughest Mudder is stressful, and leading up to the race, very first time, lots of unknowns. 24 hours. What am I going to wear for 24 hours on my feet? What do people wear for shoes for World's Toughest Mudder? It caused me so much stress and anxiety. And for whatever reason, back in 2015, when I was leading up to the race, I couldn't find a good answer. And if I can take that, if nothing else, if I can take that anxiety away from you, what kind of shoes should I get? Then my job will be done. So there's 7 types of gear items you need to get. And I'll talk about those in a second. Before we talk about these 7 types of gear you need for World's Toughest Mudder, let's read some iTunes reviews.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars.
No reviews to read today. But if you would like to leave a review for the show, you can go to lovethepodcast.com/tough and click the Apple Podcast logo and then scroll down to where it says ratings and reviews. Click that. And you can write a review. And I will read it on a future episode. I would be grateful. All right, let me tell you what I'm going to tell you. Then I'm going to tell it to you, and then I'm going to review it with you. 7 types of items you need. 1, socks and shoes. 2, underwear. 3, shorts and t-shirts. 4, a wetsuit. 5, a hood or hat. 6, headlamp/flasher. 7, gloves. Now you need nutrition. If you're going to have a pit area, you need to have a pit. But these are the the most important, bare minimum items. If you have these, you can successfully run World's Toughest Mudder. Also food, but we're not getting into food this episode. All right, I want to talk about these 7 items specifically. Generally, as we go through each of the 7 items, we're talking about them generally, and then we're going to talk about them specifically. I will have links in the show notes to the specific items I wore. Like literally, like this is what I got off of Amazon. This is what I got off of this website or that website, and where you can go to buy these 7 items. Some of them will be referral links, which support the show. Some of them are not. But the referral thing doesn't matter. All I want is you to know I want to remove any anxiety over equipment that I can. World's Toughest Mudder is stressful enough. If you can resolve the gear issues in your head, you can focus on the race. And the whole point of the gear the gear should be invisible, right? The gear should be there so that you can do your job on the course. If you're noticing like, oh, my shoes are not great, or my wetsuit doesn't fit the way I was hoping, or like that stuff is just distractions. You want the gear to just not get in the way, to enable you to do what you've trained for. That's if you could wave a magic wand, like what does good gear do? That's what it does. It's invisible. It lets you do the job you've trained for. Number 1, socks and shoes. You need trail running shoes and you need some type of socks. I recommend compression socks. Compression socks are not required. There are people out there who run without them. That's fine. But you're going to be on your feet for a long time. Your blood is going to be going down. Like the compression socks will help set you up for success. Highly recommend them. As far as trail shoes, the exact shoe model I wore was VJ Shoes is the brand, and the shoe is the Ultra 2. The Ultra 2 is a bright green pair of trail running shoes from VJ. And they have a very thick amount of sole on the bottom. It doesn't matter how big or small or muscular or skinny or like body build, you're going to be on your feet for a long, long time. More padding is better. There's lots of, slim, lightweight trail running shoes, and that's fine. I recommend you get some, whether it's the kind I use or not. Again, VJ Shoes Ultra 2. But whatever you pick, you're literally on your feet for 24 plus hours. You need some padding to help do a little bit of the work. And you might say, oh, but I'm going to be in and out of water and in and out of mud, and it's going to absorb. Yeah, you're not wrong. But you're going to be on those feet for 24 hours. Any extra little bit of padding to help protect your feet over those 24 hours, you will be grateful for. So those are the shoes. Trail running shoes. I wore the VJ Ultra 2. You can use that or not, but those are the parameters for the shoe that I recommend. Socks. Recommend compression socks. I use Mudgear. The model or the brand is Mudgear. The model, they're called the tall compression socks. They're basically the ones that go just above your knees. For me, they go above my knees. I don't know how tall you are, but maybe they're below your knees. They have ankle high socks too, they're fine for most races. But for World's Toughest Mudder, I recommend the high ones. Just a heads up, you're going to want to try them before you before you get out to the course, because they're kind of a deal to put on and off. Like when they say compression, they are very tight compression socks. These are the same socks. I actually wear these when I travel internationally for like a 8-hour, 12-hour, 14-hour plane ride. They help keep the blood up toward the heart where it needs to be. So I like compression sock. Knee-high compression socks would be the general category. The specific type I wore are the Mudgear tall compression socks. And again, there's links in the Instagram, yes, but also links in the show notes for all these items. So item number 1, you need socks and shoes. Item number 2, you need underwear. Oh yeah, of course, well, we're underwear. No, I mean specifically, you're going to need moisture wicking underwear, because you're going to be hot and sweaty during the day, and you're going to be cold and wet during the night. And anything you can do to move that moisture away from your core will help you. So you need compression underwear, and you want to wear a compression top. Ladies, I'm sorry, I am not an expert on and I'm not trying to make a joke or anything. I just don't know. I don't even know what I don't know. Let me tell you, speaking from like what I did, what my experience is, and then you can apply it to yourself. I wear a compression top that's moisture wicking to wick moisture away from my upper body. Same thing for underwear. It does two things. One, it ideally keeps water away from your core, or helps you to wick it away faster, but also it can help reduce chafing. Chafing is the bane of anyone running long distance OCR races like World's Toughest Mudder or any long kind of ultra marathon, long distance race. Let me give you, actually that's a bonus. At the end, we'll talk about chafing. I have run World's Toughest Mudder 5 times, 6 times. I have never gotten chafed. And I will tell you how I prevent chafing at the very end. That's a bonus. So underwear, compression underwear, moisture wicking underwear. I use a brand from Under Armour. I'll have a link in the show notes. This to me is using my brand. The brand I use is not hypercritical. What's important is that it's something that you're comfortable with, that you've run before, that you know works for you. So socks and shoes and underwear. Third thing you need, shorts and t-shirts. This is the least critical one. Just wear whatever you're comfortable running in. A pair of running shorts and a running t-shirt. Something to think about, to consider, is you're only going to be wearing this for a third of the race. You're going to wear it from the start of the race at noon, generally, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. is the start time this year. You're going to be wearing it from the start of the race until you put on your wetsuit. Once your wetsuit's on, you're wearing your wetsuit basically for the duration of the race. That might not be the case this year. Generally, that is the case. People start the finish. You can become an official Tough Mudder finisher at 8 a.m., usually 10 a.m. this year. So people may, and the people will be running until 2 o'clock. 24 hours is up at 2 o'clock. You'll have an hour and a half till 3:30 to finish your race. So people actually may be taking off their wetsuits and changing back into their shorts and t-shirts. Generally, you finish the race in your wetsuit. That probably will be weather dependent, obviously, but probably will be different this year. So shorts and t-shirt, literally whatever you feel comfortable in, whatever lowers, like just something you've run in before that you know, hey, these are my lucky shorts. Like, this part of the kit you're bringing is not hypercritical. You need to bring it, but it's not super critical if you have this brand or that brand. I literally just have like an old pair of running shorts and some general running t-shirt. And again, this is going over your compression underwear, your compression top, your compression shirt that you're wearing. Socks and shoes, underwear, shorts, t-shirt. Number 4, wetsuit. Every single year, someone is I am a hard man and I don't need no wetsuit. I think one time in the past 13 years, 12 years of World's Toughest Mudder, one year was that probably true, where you didn't need a wetsuit at World's Toughest Mudder. Every other year, doesn't matter where the venue, doesn't matter the time of year, doesn't matter the weather, it gets cold and you're going to be wet. And here's a secret. The wetsuit protects your body from bumps and bruises and banging on walls and rolling over rocks and barbed wire and hitting and banging. And yes, the wetsuit protects. The primary job is the cold, but man, it's nice to have an extra 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch of like literal, like a rubber protecting your body, your entire body. You need to bring a wetsuit. Now, Will, we're in Florida. It's going to be warm. Maybe. I looked up the weather from last year. Last year in Ocala, Florida in November, temperatures got down to the 40s and up to the 80s. Actually, okay, here's what it was exactly. November 29th, 2023 had a low of 36 degrees. And November 10th had a high of 86. That is a low of 2 degrees Celsius and a high of 30 degrees. So there's a span from 36 Fahrenheit to 86 Fahrenheit, 2 Celsius to 30 Celsius in 1 month, in November of last year. November 10th is when the high was 86. That was the high for last year on November 10th. Do you know the exact date of World's Toughest Mudder 2024? November 9th and 10th. The low that night was 56. But you won't know until you get there. The weather will be here's what you need to know. The weather will be anywhere from the 30s to the 80s, and you'll just have to deal with it. Don't be surprised when it's cold. And don't be shocked if it's hot. You can handle it. You'll be all right. You have a wetsuit. I don't want to even say just in case, because you're probably going to need it. You need to get a wetsuit. So what kind of wetsuit? I have a scuba diving wetsuit that I bought from a local dive shop. The brand is Henderson. Now mine is designed for scuba diving, and it's not ideal. You can get running like triathlon wetsuits. I looked on Amazon. There are some as cheap as $50. There's a place called wetsuitwarehouse.com. Lots of wetsuits you can pick from. Here's what I recommend. You want to buy a wetsuit that zips in the front. That way you can get yourself in and out. When you get your wetsuit, you want to try it on, and you're gonna feel silly. I promise you'll feel silly. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna try it on, and then you're gonna put your running shoes on, and you're gonna go for a run. You're gonna go for a run in your neighborhood. Now, don't get it dirty the first time, because if you're like, oh, this doesn't work, you want to return it. But it's important, at least if you're buying a brand new, and that's not the wetsuit. The zipper in front is not a absolute must. It's not a deal breaker. But if you're buying a new wetsuit, it's a feature you should look for, and here's why. One year, I bought a wetsuit for World's Toughest Mudder, and I was going through the whole process. I was trying it on. I was going for a run. I did that. Okay, yeah, it's a little tight, but I think it'll work. And my wife was out of town, and my kids were asleep, and I was, taking off my, in the bathroom, kind of taking out, disrobing, doffing my wetsuit, I guess. And the zipper was in the back, and the zipper got stuck. And it's like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm standing in my bathroom, and I'm looking in the mirror, and my kids are asleep, and I'm not going to go, my wife's not there. I'm not going to go wake up my neighbors. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to have to go to bed in this wetsuit. This is my life now. And it was kind of ridiculous. Eventually I got the wetsuit unjammed, but these are like ideal conditions in my house. My hands are warm. Now, hopefully you'll have pit crew that can help you with any zipper issues. So if you have a zipper in the back, don't stress out about it. If you already got it, that's fine. But if it's two wetsuits that are both about the same price, about the same comfort, and one has a zipper in the front, I would absolutely get a zipper in the front every time. How tight do you want it to be? You want it to be just right. If it hurts, then it's too tight. The point of a wetsuit when you're scuba diving is to minimize the water flow. You want to when you're scuba diving, you want to let a little bit of water in. Your body warms up that water, and then that water kind of keeps you warm throughout your dive. It's different with World's Toughest Mudder and wetsuits. With World's Toughest Mudder, they're basically like, it's like a thick, it's just like clothes that are keeping you warm from the outside, but it's a neoprene version of it that works when it's cold and it works when it's wet. And there's a bonus of protecting you from bumps and bruises along the way. So you want it to be snug, but you don't want it to be tight. When do you put your wetsuit on? This is a common question. And even though we talk about this every year, people still make the mistake. You need to put it on before you get cold. So what that means for most people is you're going to put it on after 2 laps, 3 laps. Remember, again, we're starting at 2 p.m. today, 2 p.m. this year, not noon. So you're going to do your first lap, the hot lap. That'll take you, an hour, give or take, maybe an hour and a half if you're taking your time. And then your second lap, most of the obstacles should be open. Not all of them. Most of them should be. Let's say it takes you an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I don't know your speed. I don't think anyone... So you're going to I would say at the earliest you're going to put it on is after 2 laps. I would say after 3 laps, almost everybody should have their wetsuit on. Like, I don't think almost no one, unless you're at the front of the pack, almost no one should be going out for their 4th lap without their wetsuit on. So somewhere in the 2 to 3 lap completed range is when you should be putting on your wetsuit. Then here's the rule again. You need to put it on before you get cold. If you put it on after you get cold, you're already cold. If you put it on after that fourth lap, I can do a few more laps. I can run. The reality is you will run slower once you get that wetsuit on, and you're going to figure this out when you're doing your test driving your gear at home. I run faster with my wetsuit on, so I'm going to push it out. I'm going to do a few more laps before once it gets really cold, like 10, 11 o'clock at night, then I'll put on my wetsuit. Once you're cold, it's too late. You put the wetsuit on at 10 p.m. and you're trying to get warm and you're chasing that for hours and hours and hours. You're burning too many calories. You're going to burn out. You need to put the wetsuit on before you get cold. And yeah, it does. It sucks to run in a wetsuit, and you're going to do it for a lot of hours overnight in the cold, in the dark, by yourself sometimes. And yeah, it's not world's most comfortable mutter. It's world's toughest mutter. That's what you're paying for. You're going to get kicked in the teeth a little bit, and you're going to like it. Put the wetsuit on before you get cold. So you need socks and shoes. You need underwear, shorts and t-shirts. You need a wetsuit. You also need a hood or a neoprene hat. This is this is the item where I'm going to tell you what I do, and I'm going to tell you what almost everyone else does. And then you can decide for yourself. You need something neoprene to keep your head warm. Neoprene is that wetsuit material, that rubberish feeling cloth. It's got some thickness to it. I use a neoprene hat. Most people running World's Toughest Mudder use a neoprene hood. And I think the reason why, here's why I think most people wear a neoprene hood, is because when you buy a wetsuits are primarily for either surfers or scuba divers, right? And they tend to use hoods. I did a lot of scuba diving when I was younger, and if you're diving in cold water, you're wearing a hood, not a hat. Why? Well, first of all, the bubbles can get caught underneath the hat and take it away. A hood is either connected at the neck or strapped under your chin. And the hood does a better job at keeping your head warm. It covers more of your head, covers more of your neck, your throat. It is 100% absolutely more effective than a neoprene hat for keeping your head warm and your body warm. So I'm acknowledging that. If you get cold really, really easy, a hood's probably the best choice for you. And let me tell you why I choose a neoprene hat. I do not like the feeling of the hood on my neck, on my throat. I feel like I'm being choked by a really weak man. The neoprene hat is more comfortable. It's easier to take on and off. Yes, it is less effective than a hood, but to me, it's good enough. It does, 60%, 70% of the job of the hood, but it is 200, 300, 400% more comfortable to me. World's Toughest Mudder is already so uncomfortable. I don't want to feel like I'm being choked the entire time I am running around overnight with my wetsuit on. So I recommend you need to get something neoprene for your head. I recommend the hood. I recommend the hat. But if you get the hood, I totally understand. Most people out there will be wearing a neoprene hood. This is something you need to try for yourself and see what you prefer. Socks and shoes, underwear, shorts and t-shirt, wetsuit, hood, or neoprene hat. Next thing you need is a headlamp and flasher. There are only 2 items that you are required to bring with you to World's Toughest Mudder by Tough Mudder. 2 rule mandated items. It specifically says in the rules you have to have this item or you can't run the race. You have to have a headlamp and you have to have a flasher. Everything else is optional. Wetsuits are optional. You should have a wetsuit, but they're optional. Those are the 2 things you have to have. You have to have a headlamp. You have to have a flasher. The other 2 things you're going to need, Tough Mudder will provide. You need to have a bib. Tough Mudder gives you at check-in, and a timing chip. They'll also provide that. Let's talk about the flasher first. Go to Amazon, just type in flasher headlamp and get like 5 or 10 of the cheap ones. These are not critical. You have to have one 100%, but it's literally just a little thing you're going to strap to the back of your bib or to the back of the strap of your headlamp. These aren't something to spend a lot of money on. They're next to disposable, and you have to have them 100%. But it's not something I would stress out about or spend a bunch of money on. Just get something. If you can't find that, or if you whatever, also you can also use a neoprene stick, like a glow stick, not neoprene, Siloam, a glow stick, the kind you break, you shake them, you tie them with a little piece of paracord or a zip tie to your bib or to somewhere on your body. And those are fine too. And the good thing about those, you don't need to worry about batteries. I don't like them because they're a little bulkier, but a lot of people have them out there. They're fine. So either a flasher or a glow stick for that item. The headlamp, I'm going to recommend a very expensive headlamp, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I'm going to give you another option if you don't want the expensive one. But World's Toughest Mudder is an expensive race, right? In money, absolutely. It's going to be, it's what, $500, $600 ticket maybe, depending on when you buy it, early, late, whatever. It's an expensive race. It's also time intensive. You've been hopefully training all year long for this 24-hour race. It will be the toughest race, or one, if not the toughest, one of the toughest, I promise, that you'll ever do in your life. You've spent a lot of time, a lot of money. You're traveling maybe across the country or across the world for this specific race. There is nothing worse than running in the middle of the night and your headlamp is not bright enough, and you're not sure if your eyes are going bad or if your headlamp is dimming. You can't. It's just frustrating. Again, like we talked about at the very beginning. You want your gear to be invisible. You want to be able to just do what you need to do out there to focus. Like, you don't need another thing to worry about, right? Ryan Atkins turned me on to these lamps, this brand called Lupine, the Lupine headlamp. The exact model I used is the Pico X4. The Pico X4. It is several $100s for a headlamp. And I know, what? Why would you spend that much money on a headlamp? Well, first of all, it's the best headlamp I've ever seen in my life. When I'm on the trail and I turn that light on, it has 3 settings, bright, medium, and dim, whatever. The dimmest setting is brighter than the brightest black diamond headlamp you will see out there. It removes any concern about, if you're going to trip, it's because you're tired. It's not because you didn't see the rock coming. It looks like there's a car on the trail. These are the brightest lights you'll ever see on a trail. They're expensive, but they're worth every penny. Also, they're durable. I put this thing through World's Toughest Mudder. I still use it years later for early morning runs. It's so bright. Literally, it's so bright that when I meet runners on a trail coming the other direction, I have to turn my head away. I have to look off to the side of the trail because I don't want to blind them, or I kind of stick my hand up and cover it up just out of courtesy. It's so bright that it's annoying for people coming the other direction. So the company is Lupine, Lupine. Highly recommend them, but again, it's an expensive light. But Tough Mudder is an expensive race. You're already buying a wetsuit. If you're going to cheap out on something, the headlamp is not the place to do it. Not everyone's going to drop a couple $100 on a headlamp. I get it, and that's fine. You don't have to. Also, you can buy the headlamp. You got to buy a couple extra batteries. These don't take AA's or AAA's. These take, their own battery pack. So it's an investment. It's a headlamp that is an investment. I'll have a link in the bio. I don't make anything. There's no referral. I'll just show you the one I bought, and you can decide for yourself. If you are yeah, it's too much, forget it. A very popular option is the Black Diamond Storm headlamp. I'm looking at Amazon right now. It's $48, 3,400, 4.5 star reviews. So my first recommendation would be the Lupine headlamp I mentioned, the Lupine Pico X4. Second choice would be the Black Diamond Storm. Now, if you're at a place where you're hey, I'm already spending, so much money, whatever, you could buy the Pico, you could buy the Lupine light, and then you could be hey, I want a backup. I had a race once before I had the Lupine. I had, regular Black Diamond. It died, and I was in and out of the pit area, and I'm heading back to the start line, and I realized, oh my gosh, my headlamp's not working. Someone just gave me their headlamp. Someone from the pit area, or there's a racer who was like done. Just, it doesn't hurt to have an extra light up there. If you're going to do the Black Diamond option, be sure to bring plenty of extra batteries, because you're going to want to change the batteries out probably every other lap. You can buy 2 of the Black Diamonds and have your pit crew like have one ready for you, because you're going to want it bright, and the batteries are going to die faster than you expect. So bring plenty of extra batteries. Those take AA or triple. I think AAA batteries for the Black Diamond. Last item. Gloves. Socks and shoes, number 1. 2, underwear. 3, shorts and t-shirts. 4, wetsuit. 5, hood neoprene hat. 6, headlamp and flasher. 7, gloves. If you run lots of OCR races, and this is a common, like, what kind of gloves should I get when you're a new racer? A lot of new racers. What kind of gloves should I get for? What are good for monkey bars? Like, what are good for, what's the best gloves for OCR? The best gloves for OCR are your hands. That does not apply to World's Toughest Mudder. The best gloves for World's Toughest Mudder are called Bleg mitts. You can buy them directly from Deanna Bleg. She is a World's Toughest Mudder champion, cancer survivor, legend in the World's Toughest Mudder community from Australia. You can buy them straight from her from Australia. It takes a while to get them over here. Or you can buy them from Evan Perperis from the OCR Report. This is his own deal. Like, he set this up, and he is the only, as far as I know, the only retailer in the U.S. that you can buy Bleg mitts from. That's it. You can buy them at teamstrengthspeed.com/store. They're called Bleg mitts. BLEGG mitts. What makes these gloves so special? Why are you highly recommending these certain gloves over all the other ones? These are gloves. They're mitts. So a mitt is different than a glove. A glove has 5 fingers, or has fingers. Mitts are your 4 fingers are all together. Maybe you're all 5. The difference with the Bleg mitts is that it has a seam across the palm of the glove where you can pull, depending on the model of Bleg mitts, whether it's a horizontal cut, or not a cut, but a seam, or vertical, you can basically pull your bare hand out of the Bleg mitts. The glove will fold back around by your wrist, and you can have your hands free to do the monkey bars, or do the obstacle, or do operation, or whatever obstacle you need your fingers free for, your hands free for. And then as soon as you're done with the obstacle, you can just pull the mitt back over your hand to keep you warm. So Bleg mitts, that's what you want. Now, you will see, for the same reason you'll see scuba hoods out there, you'll see scuba gloves out there. You need to have some kind of glove in case it's really, really cold. I don't think it'll be really, really cold, but you need to have gloves out there, because it might be really, really cold. And you're not going to spend all this time, all this money, all this training, and then have to end your race because, I didn't think I'd need gloves. You might need gloves. You need to bring a pair of gloves. The gloves I recommend are called Bleg mitts. You can get them from teamstrengthspeed.com/store. I would not run World's Toughest Mudder without Bleg mitts. These are a great, great piece of equipment. Also, I would get a cheap pair, I was going to say $1. They're probably $5 now. Cheap gardening gloves. Just cheap gardening gloves that you can throw away when the race is over. And they will protect your hands. You are going to be, and you're like, yeah, but you don't need gloves for regular OCR or gardening gloves. You don't, you're right. But you're going to be doing some of these obstacles over and over and over again. There's going to be 20 plus obstacles per lap, per 5-mile loop. If you want to run 50 miles, you're going to do all those obstacles 10 times, maybe 9 times, depending on the sprint lap. You want to run 75 miles, that's another 5 laps around. That's another 100 obstacles. Every 5 laps, 100 obstacles. You have to plus or more, 100 or more obstacles. Some cheap gardening gloves just to protect your hands, because your hands are going to be torn. They're going to be torn up on a good day, right? Bring some cheap gardening gloves. Give yourself a little bit of extra protection. Let me recap before I give our bonuses. Socks and shoes. I wear VJ Ultra shoes. Underwear. I wear Under Armour compression underwear and compression t-shirt. Shorts and t-shirts. Just wear something comfortable. Just a nice pair of, running shorts and running t-shirt. A wetsuit. I have a Henderson wetsuit, but wetsuits are, man, I talked about this earlier. Wetsuits are so specific, like different body types, different heights. You need to try it on. And this is true for all the equipment. Any equipment you bring, any food, nutrition, you have to test drive it all before you get to World's Toughest Mudder. If World's Toughest Mudder is the first time you're putting something on or trying something on or seeing, hey, this might be a fun way to get some calories on. No, you've got to do literally every single thing you're going to try at World's Toughest Mudder. You need to do it before you get to World's Toughest Mudder. I promise you will regret it if you don't. Just give it a test drive. Do it a month out. Do it 2 weeks out. Well, try it at least once or twice before you get there. Number 5, a hood or neoprene hat. I use a Scuba Pro dive beanie. That's what it's called. You can get it on Amazon. It literally, it's like a watch cap or a toque in Canada. Headlamp or flasher. I use a Lupine headlamp. They're expensive, but they're outstanding. And then a flasher, just literally get like a cheap. I'll have a link in the show notes for what I'm talking about, but don't stress about the flasher. Spend your energy on the headlamp. And then 7, gloves. You need to have some gloves, some neoprene gloves. I recommend Blegmets. That's what I use. And then a pair of cheap gardening gloves just to protect your hand, give your hands a little bit more protection over the 24 hours. Okay, bonus. Chafing. Chafing protection. I have never chafed at World's Toughest Mudder. And I can tell you why, exactly why. 1 is compression underwear, compression shirt. 2 is these 2 items you can buy. They're cheap. They're both cheap. They're probably available at your local Target. 2 items. 1 is Desitin. Desitin is a treatment for baby rash. There's 2 kinds. There's the blue and there's the purple. The purple is the extra strength. Get the purple. This is in Target. It's in the baby aisle. There'll be a link in the show notes. You can get it on Amazon. You use it with babies to treat baby rash. What you're going to use it at World's Toughest Mudder for is to pre-treat your areas. Any part of your body that typically might be subject to moisture. Your crotch, your butt, all around. Like literally, Desitin is cheap compared to chafing at World's Toughest Mudder. Like you're going to, the morning of World's Toughest Mudder, you're going to, before you get dressed or as you're getting dressed, you're going to go in the restroom and you're going to take that tube of Desitin, and everything that's covered by a bathing suit down south is going to be covered in Desitin. And you're like, that's gross. Yeah, kind of. But you will not chafe. You will not chafe. So get some Desitin. Get 2 tubes of Desitin. It's so much cheaper than getting chafed, I promise you. The other thing you want to get is Body Glide. This is it's in like usually a blue stick. It looks like a small deodorant stick. And I use this on my upper body. Where your arms meet your chest, your armpit, where your compression shirt, the collar, where it's rubbing against your neck, like you're gonna put a loop around your neck with this Body Glide. Where the sleeves are on your biceps with the compression shirt. Anywhere where any of those like touch points, where it's going to rub a little bit, maybe that's where you want to apply the Body Glide. And again, this stuff is so much cheaper than getting chafed. And be generous with it. And maybe you even like re-Desitin up, like at an hour before you head to the start line, 30 minutes before you head to the start line. I've never chafed, and I don't think I've ever told anyone my chafing secret. So if you're listening to this episode and you don't get chafed, you're welcome. So the bonus item, chafing protection. Get some Desitin, get some Body Glide. And bonus, last thing, trim your toenails a day or 2 days before the race. 1 year, 2018, I did not trim my toenail. I just forgot, just blanked, a lot going on. I get it. You know, it happens. I forgot to trim my toenails. I could feel it on one lap. They're digging in. The toenail was like digging into my toe. It was already causing problems. I knew it was going to cause really bad problems. I get back to the pit. I tell my pit crew, hey, I need to trim my toenail. It's out of control. It's like, it's going to tear up my toe. It's already hurting. So I take off my shoe. Well, I got my wetsuit on, right? But I also have my compression socks on, my Mudgear socks. So the Mudgear socks are all the way up to my knee. And then on top of that, I have my wetsuit covering everything up. It's freezing cold. We're trying to, and the longer you are in the pit area, the colder you're getting because you're not moving. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get my sock off to trim my toe. So what we ended up doing is we just cut a hole in my sock to get to my toe, pulled my toe out. You know, you cut the toenail, trim the toenail back so it doesn't hurt anymore. Kind of pull the sock back over the toe the best you can, stick the toe back in the shoe, tie the shoes up, and boom, off you go. Bob's your uncle. Do some more laps. All that could have been avoided if I had trimmed my toenails a day or two before. If you trim your toenails like the morning of, it's a little like, it's like that sharp edge still. If you do it a day or two before, it kind of gives time for it to wear off and not be so sharp. So that's it. That is my Gear 101. Socks and shoes, underwear, shorts and t-shirt, wetsuit, hood, neoprene hat, headlamp flasher, gloves, chafing protection, and then trim your toenails. If I missed something, if you're listening to me and you're a World's Toughest Mudder veteran and you're like, I can't believe he didn't say this. How did he forget this? Email me, will@theocrreport.com. If you are a newbie, if you're a rookie and you're like, this is your first year running World's Toughest Mudder and I didn't mention something and you have a question about a specific item, a specific gear item, email me, will@theocrreport.com, and I will address it in a future episode. Hey, thank you for listening. If you are running World's Toughest Mudder this year, good luck. You'll be awesome. I will see you out there. Come by the OCR Report tent and say hey. I would love to meet you. Also, I'll be at the brunch after. I'll be at the community dinner before. I'll be at the bar crawl, the pub crawl. I'd love to meet you at the race. This episode is part of 30 Podcasts Half September from the OCR Report. Today is day 24. We are literally 1 week away from the end of our 30 podcasts in 30 days. Have you listened to all the other episodes? What do you think of 30 Podcasts Half September? I'd love to know. You know what? Do me a kindness. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and I will read it on a future episode. You can email me, will@theocrreport.com. Follow us on Instagram @theocrreport. Follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/theocrreport. Tomorrow, 30 podcasts, OCR Talk. Jason Dupree. Check that out. And listen to all the other episodes also. There are links in the show notes for all the individual gear items. Feel free to shop or don't shop. I will see you at World's Toughest Mudder. Cannot wait. It is getting close. Talk to you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.